We have Vivian, who's a life code 8. Okay, so we'll put Vivian here. And we have her husband, who's also a life code 8. So Vivian is feeling at odds with her husband and is asking herself if it's time to move on. So we have 2 life code 8s. Let's have a look as to what that dynamic is going to look like.
Welcome to the Sensitive Mind Show.
Your purpose in life as a sensitive is to experience the deeper parts of the mind, to move beyond fear and to manage your energy, no matter the circumstance. I'm going to show you, as a sensitive, how you can maximize your talents and feel comfortable in your own skin. For show notes and to join the conversation, visit heidisawyer.com/mind.
My husband and I have constant anger and friction in our relationship. We have different views on what happiness is and how to get the most out of each day. I believe that each day can be a gift and he is always waiting for something more. Nothing makes him happy. I feel I'm destined for more and that he purposely pulls me down so I'm not sure of myself. What's the problem the situation creates? My intuition has greatly suffered and so has my health. Though we seem to have a connection between us, the unspoken animosity is so strong from him. So what is the question that Vivian wants me to answer? Is it possible for me to find peace with him, or is it time to move on? So Vivian also is asking if this is a situation she can reconcile, or if it maybe is worth considering moving on. So what do we have? We have 2 life code 8s. Interesting. This is a prime example of an aware life code 8 and an unaware life code 8. Okay, so unaware life code 8s, especially in this 8 to 8 dynamic, can be incredibly stubborn. Okay, so I suspect that what we've got going on here is the lighter one life code 8 becomes, so the lighter this life code 8 becomes, the more stubborn this life code 8 becomes. So 2 life code 8s in a relationship where one is lighter than the other, the heavier one is going to get more heavy because it's going to be highlighting their sort of sense or their worry over abandonment. So a life code 8 who's unaware will want to sometimes burden the person who is closest to them. They want to tie some heavy rocks to their feet. Not because they want to, sort of throw them in a pond and allow them to emotionally drown. It's because they don't want to throw them in the pond. What they want them to do is stay put. Okay, they don't want to be left. They don't want to be abandoned. So they think, well, if I put heavy rocks on their feet, they can't go anywhere, because their sense of worth will be low enough for me to be able to manage, because they're not going to go anywhere. So they kind of go, so an unaware life code 8 in this kind of scenario can go into a stubborn and kind of place. So whenever it's questioned or anything along those lines, it triggers their abandonment fear. And then a life code 8 in this unaware one will show that in anger. They'll go, oh, rather than, or actually I feel, I'm frightened that if you feel lighter about life and more engaged with it, and you're not you're not negative, then I'm worried that you're going to leave me and you're going to find someone better. Okay, so he's not going to admit that, and he's not going to admit that as a life code 8. Now, what we have here is, in this dynamic, is a lighter life code 8, who I suspect was more like her husband early on in the relationship. Not that to say that she was heavy and negative, but I would say practical. So it would have been a practical relationship. So 2 practical people coming together and working things out practically. But that's not very, sort of highly charged emotional dynamic. It just becomes heavy and boring if it's too immovable, especially for the life code 8 who's actually going into her own strengths. Okay, so that's going to become, it'll feel like a a restraint. Okay, so it will feel like a restraint. So she's trying to get him to loosen up, and he'll go, no, I'm not really tied down, life code 8. And his deep fear, I strongly suspect, is actually about abandonment. So he will associate Vivian becoming lighter as the possibility of her abandoning him, so therefore he becomes heavier. So let's have a look and see what this dynamic is about. Okay, so we're going to have a look. I think we'll have a look at the husband first and see if I'm right about whether his true fear is abandonment. So I think the husband, as far as this relationship is. So we have the rebel. Okay, so we have the rebel for the husband. Interesting. And let's have a look and see what is going on as far as Vivian is concerned. We have the athlete. Okay, so this is very true. So often when we look at the archetypes, it's looking at the undertone, the deeper meaning behind something that's not necessarily immediately expressed on the surface. So what's going on as far as Vivian is concerned? She's got the athlete. So everything that she said as far as this dilemma is concerned is absolutely true to her 100%. So she's actually talking from the deeper parts of herself. So her deeper parts of herself is very matched with the surface self. So absolutely, she needs this to move forward. She absolutely needs this to move forward. Oh, she seems to have popped off in terms of the athletes. Okay, so we'll stick that back on. And so she needs this to work. She needs something to change. It's not, I'll just ask Heidi this dilemma. Does this change, which it's more of a life code 8 thing, kind of. She needs this to change. Okay, this is not I might ask. This is no, I need to know. Am I wasting my time here? He is determined to do absolutely the opposite right now as to what she wants with this rebel. He's running a pattern. I would definitely say he's most likely running the fear of abandonment pattern, but he'd be completely unaware of it. And it will be something that comes from, not from the marriage, but from something earlier in his life experience, which is why he needs to rebel against her. So how do we solve this? It's kind of, how do we solve this? How do we look at this? Well, let's have a look. If we put something into the soul here, into the 6, let's see if they are soulmates. Let's see what we get in terms of that, or whether actually Vivian will choose to really say, do you know what, stuff, you've had enough. Let's have a look if they're soulmates or not. Okay, so big part, let's have a look. So I'm asking, are Vivian and her husband soulmates? We have the victim. Okay, interesting, because it's not directly answering the question. Okay, what we've got here, the victim in the soulmate energy, is that they came together because of a pattern. Okay, so it depends as to whether this pattern has finished for Vivian and her husband doesn't want to catch up. That's really the answer as far as that's concerned. So they came together. Their relationship was initially brought on a pattern. So it now really comes to the decision as to whether the husband decides to break that pattern or not. Because clearly Vivian, with this athlete, has. Is he going to catch up or is he not? Now that becomes a personal decision, because when we look at the soul here, as in the soulmate scenario, are they or are they not? They came together because of a pattern. It doesn't mean to say that they have to break up because of a pattern. it completely depends on, is the husband going to break that cycle or not? Now, with the victim here, it becomes his choice. Okay? It becomes his choice as to whether he is or isn't, because Vivian is going to move on anyway. She's moving forward anyway. So at some point or another, she is going to be asking him, are you coming forward with me or are you not? Simple as that. She's already made that decision. Her commitment is to a bright future. Definitely what we're looking at here. So it will be a case of, is a husband going to make that decision or not? And that comes down to his personal choice. But it's very clear that Vivian will keep going in that direction that she wishes to. So what can we learn from this? What can you learn from this? Sensitives have a huge amount of loyalty, and they have this loyalty to the death quite often. So, is that loyalty appropriate, or is it not appropriate? Well, the thing to learn from this is sometimes relationships kind of come into our life because it's about resolving a pattern. It's about us understanding or revealing to ourselves a pattern that we've been running. So maybe that pattern is normally completely unconscious. So is that pattern a pattern from our own life experience? So let's say our own earlier life experience, or is it a pattern that's been running through our family line for generations? But what it does mean is that you don't have to stay in your entire life within the rules of that pattern. And that when you come to a space, which often as sensitives do, where it's time to actually step away from the pattern because you've evolved your own inner world enough, that actually that's an all right thing to do. And if people want to come with you, great. If they don't, it means that there's something better. So that's the end of this episode of the Sensitive Mind Show. If you've enjoyed it and found it helpful, and do share it with your friends. And be sure to join me next time, where I look forward to giving you an alternative perspective on your relationship dilemmas. Bye for now, and let me leave you with this. For more great free content designed to support your purchase of my book, Highly Intuitive People, 7 Right Brain Traits to Change the Lives of Intuitive Sensitive People, please visit finallyfeelunderstood.com. There you can subscribe and download for free the meditation specific to today's episode. If you have already read the book, then it's time for you to receive exclusive access and support from me and your fellow intuitive sensitives as we go deeper together along this proven 7-step path by joining us in my monthly membership program called Heidi's Circle. There you can ask me anything in a safe and private environment, and I will answer you live. Join us today by visiting healmyinnerworld.com.